and welcome to Pricing College with your hosts Aidan Campbell
and Joanna Wells.
In today's episode, we want to ask, do you really need to use complex computer programs and systems in a revenue management department? The question here obviously arises because more and more we're seeing programs, multi-million-dollar systems really, that used to just be used in airlines, hotels, etc., being suggested to many more different types of companies. And we ask, is that really required?
Well, I think that companies are investing more in revenue management software to really optimize their prices based on a lot of different types of criteria. In the past, 10, 20 years ago, I'm thinking about airlines now because they were the first to really adopt more software and for pricing and revenue management. But they started out, pretty basic. They would have, certain price points, 3 or 4 different price points for seats or flights. And then once, the seats ran out at a certain price, they go to the next bucket of prices, which tended to be higher. And this, in a way, sort of gave that sense of, dynamic pricing, revenue management. But actually, it was just, a way of getting more yield in a very basic way at different price points. But I think now, as the pricing management team expands and the discipline evolves, we're finding that, to optimize prices for airlines or in industries with very slim margins, you may have to invest more in software to really safely optimize prices and revenues. Otherwise, you could be at risk of volume loss.
One thing I'll say here is often people think, they're going to go 100% from day one. In many aspects of business and certainly in pricing and revenue management, it's taking many steps. It's getting early wins, it's getting scores on the board, getting buy-in from stakeholders and moving forward. Going from a position where you've got no pricing department, no revenue management, and then jumping to a multi-million-dollar system, to be honest, probably isn't the right way to do it. It's much better to, get a lot of the benefits by spending very, very small amounts of money. People often think that you have to go 100% into something to get the results, and there's no graded or step basis. Like, I'm a big believer in step by step. It always reminds me of people who say they're going to start in the gym, but they don't want to get too big. They always say not having the awareness as to how difficult it actually is to build muscle, etc. And they're almost like thinking they'll become Arnold Schwarzenegger overnight. That's in some way. I don't think many people have ever linked pricing to Arnold Schwarzenegger before, but in this context, I think, take little steps. You will get a lot of the benefits. A lot of companies with very immature pricing and revenue management systems, I don't think it's right to jump in at the beginning when you don't really know what you're doing, when you don't fully understand, your pricing approach, let alone your optimizations approaches. And I think, don't buy the big ticket things immediately because you could be left with a white elephant sitting there not being used.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. A lot of companies do invest in software as a knee-jerk reaction to a changing market or some form of price pressure from competition. And what they end up doing is going, I'll get that silver bullet solution. I'll get some revenue management software to optimize my prices. I won't invest in a pricing team. I don't even know what a pricing framework is, but that, there's an assumption that software has it all. It really doesn't. And if it does, it's bare bones and it needs to be implemented and integrated into the business. And there has to be a pricing framework, an algorithm to really run it. And that, again, needs to be adjusted according to the business and various dynamics and factors. Now, when I mentioned the airlines industry before, that was actually quite a slow process to, where it is now. Initially, as I said, it started off very rudimentary revenue management, not really dynamic pricing, but given the illusion of dynamic pricing by moving to different buckets. That's not really, a sophisticated form of capacity utilization or even optimizing based on customer or consumer demand. Now, however, over the last 20, 30 years, the airlines industry have learnt a lot and they've cultivated their own business rules and factors and variables that they'd like to study from a pricing perspective to really optimize their revenues safely. And that could be, flights, forecasting, network effect, the whole lot. So they're really looking at multiple dynamics to optimize prices, seat pricing, flight connections, availability within the network, and how popular a given type of flight or system is, and also looking at ancillary optimizations of products as well. So there's a whole, of their food, and all, the trolley cart and all of that, perfumes and all of that sort of stuff. That's all integrated within the system. So there's multiple variables to consider. So in that regard, I would say, sometimes it could be data overload, just thinking through all of that. So a good pricing software and system would be very useful.
Yeah, I think we just gone through there are a lot of the complex things that airlines and companies like that really look at. Obviously, in the airline industry, it's an accepted revenue management, is an accepted function. There are experts in that business, and they're using tools of the trade. Like, I'll be honest, a lot of the companies we look at don't have that level of maturity, and so even going through those factors that you could be looking at, such as competition on the lines, special events, connections, whatever else. A lot of companies in their pricing functions, well, some of them don't even have pricing functions, let alone have that level of detail as to what's really driving demand and pricing. And in that context, to be honest, I think an expensive revenue management system won't be useful to them until they're much further along that maturity cycle. I think there's back of an envelope stuff. You got to, spend your money at the beginning to build your expertise. So probably, get someone in there to run pricing for you, maybe a pricing manager, a pricing analyst. Get a good Excel system in place, a good ERP system maybe, or use the systems that you do have. It's, why throw a lot of money into something if you don't have the capability to use it? And, I think this is something we'll touch on in future episodes, but one of the big problems with revenue management systems is they don't just come straight out of the box, especially if you're not in the airline industry. There needs to be tailoring, tinkering, really making it applicable to your business. When someone goes for a job interview, you're often asked, "Oh, do you understand this industry?" And like the same thing applies to computers and systems. So, not meaning to be negative on it. Obviously, they're very useful tools, but I would say start easy, start in a way you can understand. Don't jump in the deep end.
Yeah. Work out what your strategic price setting process is. Does it actually optimize revenues? And then think about your approach. Is it dynamic pricing essential for your business, or perhaps it's not? So it's thinking about your business, what really will work for your business now, and then having that 5-year plan in mind, and being able to iterate as you go along, because obviously things do change, markets change, your customer base changes, and we all know that going through COVID at the moment, how quickly things change and how that impacts pricing and business models. So it's having that in mind, even though you've got that 5-year plan, but really understanding your business, your approach to pricing, then building that pricing team who can really figure that out for you. And then from there, making small steps to getting the system, building on the framework as suggested, and then really working across the business to make that happen, because pricing doesn't happen just within the pricing team. It's a real organizational level commitment.
Yeah, I think that's it from me today. So have a great day.
Yeah, thanks a lot.